Over 60? 10 everyday foods that instantly stop leg cramps naturally. You read that right. 10 simple foods, yes, everyday foods you probably already have in your kitchen, can actually stop those excruciating leg cramps that jolt you awake at 3 a.m. Sounds too good to be true? Well, that's what I thought too, until I started digging into the science. And what I found shocked me. Did you know that nearly 7 out of 10 adults over 60 suffer from leg cramps on a regular basis? And yet, most of them are told it's just dehydration or getting older. That's just not the full story. In fact, what if I told you it might have nothing to do with age at all, and everything to do with a few missing nutrients in your diet? And no, we're not talking about expensive supplements, weird remedies, or stretching until your hips pop. These are real foods, from your fridge, from your grocery store, backed by real clinical research. And food number 1 on the list, it works faster than most over-the-counter solutions, and yet almost no doctor ever talks about it. So if you're over 60 and tired of the cramps, the sleepless nights, or that stabbing pain when you're just trying to rest, then trust me, you'll want to stay with me until the very end of this video. But before we dive in, take just a second to like this video, share it with a friend or loved one, and subscribe to our channel. It helps us reach more people like you, and gives us the motivation to keep bringing you life-changing health tips every single week. All right, let's take a deep breath, shake out those tired legs, and get ready to change the way you think about food forever. Let's start with food number 10, and trust me, you're not going to guess what it is. Number 10, Greek yogurt, the triple electrolyte powerhouse you're probably ignoring. If you're over 60 and struggling with nighttime leg cramps, it might be time to take a second look at a food you've likely overlooked: plain Greek yogurt. Most people think of yogurt as just good for digestion, but here's the truth. Greek yogurt is a natural powerhouse packed with magnesium, potassium, and calcium, 3 essential minerals that work together to support muscle relaxation, nerve signaling, and overall hydration balance. Magnesium helps your muscles release after contracting. Potassium ensures smooth electrical communication between your nerves and muscles, and calcium plays a key role in muscle and nerve function. When these 3 are in balance, your muscles are less likely to cramp or seize up during the night. Let me share a story. I had a patient named Barbara, 71 years old, who would wake up at 3 a.m. with intense calf cramps. She tried drinking more water, stretching, even warm baths, but nothing worked. When we reviewed her diet, it was clear she wasn't getting enough magnesium or potassium. I had her start eating a bowl of plain Greek yogurt with half a banana after dinner. Within 2 weeks, her cramps were completely gone. That one simple change made a huge difference. Science supports this approach, too. While research on magnesium and cramping has mixed conclusions, several studies have shown that up to 78% of older adults with leg cramps reported relief after improving their magnesium intake, especially with more bioavailable forms like magnesium citrate or food-based sources like yogurt. Clinical nutrition studies have shown how food-based electrolyte support can outperform isolated supplements when part of a consistent routine. So here's my tip as a doctor. Choose plain, unsweetened Greek yogurt to avoid added sugars that interfere with mineral absorption. Add chia seeds or a few slices of banana to increase your potassium intake. And eat it in the evening. Your body absorbs magnesium and calcium better at night, which also supports deeper sleep. Now I want to hear from you. Do you already eat Greek yogurt regularly? Have you noticed a difference in your sleep, cramps, or energy? Drop a comment below. I read everyone, and I'd love to hear your story. Sometimes the best medicine isn't in a pill bottle, it's already sitting in your fridge. Number 9, cooked spinach, a simple green that supercharges circulation and relieves cramps. Spinach is often praised for its health benefits, but if you're over 60 and dealing with leg cramps, cooked spinach deserves a permanent spot on your plate. While raw spinach is still healthy, cooking it lightly, steaming or sautéing, helps unlock more bioavailable magnesium, the kind your body can absorb and use more effectively. Magnesium is critical for muscle relaxation, and when combined with the natural nitrates in spinach, it can make a huge difference. These nitrates convert into nitric oxide, which helps widen blood vessels, improve circulation, and flush out muscle waste like lactic acid and carbon dioxide. Poor circulation is one of the leading underlying causes of nighttime leg cramps in older adults, especially for those with conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, or peripheral artery disease. When blood flow slows down, muscles don't get the oxygen or nutrients they need. The result? Tightness, spasms, and painful cramps that can strike without warning. I remember working with Lewis, a 76-year-old retired construction worker. He'd been experiencing regular cramps in his lower legs, especially after walking or working in the yard. I suggested he start adding just half a cup of lightly steamed spinach to his dinner every other night. Within 10 days, his cramps were noticeably reduced. After 1 month, he said he hadn't had a single leg cramp in a full week, something that hadn't happened in years. Scientific studies back this up. Research in Frontiers in Physiology shows that nitrate-rich vegetables like spinach improve oxygen delivery to muscles. Another study in Nutrients confirms that food-based magnesium, especially from cooked greens, is often better tolerated and absorbed than supplements. My recommendation is simple. Steam or sauté your spinach gently and add a squeeze of lemon juice. The vitamin C boosts mineral absorption and enhances the effect of nitric oxide. Avoid overcooking or boiling heavily, which can drain the nutrients into the water. Have you tried adding cooked spinach to your meals lately? If so, did you notice a change in your leg cramps or energy levels? I'd love to hear your story. Drop a comment and let's talk. Number 8. Dried apricots. A sweet, natural way to balance your muscles and calm inflammation. Dried apricots aren't just a sweet snack, they're a quiet powerhouse for muscle health, especially for those over 60. These chewy orange fruits are naturally rich in potassium, which is essential for maintaining the electrical balance in your muscles. Low potassium levels can cause muscles to spasm or misfire, leading to painful leg cramps. Apricots also contain iron, which helps carry oxygen to the muscles, and beta-carotene, an antioxidant that helps reduce inflammation and oxidative stress in aging muscle tissue. However, not all dried apricots are created equal. Many brands on the shelves are treated with sulfites to preserve their color, and those preservatives can actually irritate the nervous system, potentially worsening cramps in sensitive individuals. That's why I always recommend choosing unsulfured, unsweetened varieties. They're not only safer but also more beneficial for your overall health. And remember, moderation matters. Just 3 to 5 apricot halves in the afternoon or early evening are enough to support muscle function without spiking your blood sugar. Pairing dried apricots with a handful of almonds or pumpkin seeds is a smart move. That combo gives your body a solid dose of magnesium, potassium, iron, and healthy fats, nutrients that work together to fight off cramps and keep your energy steady. Grace, a 69-year-old receptionist and avid gardener, used to stop gardening after just 10 minutes because of severe calf cramps. She started carrying a small bag of dried apricots in her purse, eating them daily with a few almonds. In just 3 weeks, she was gardening for over an hour without a single cramp. Research backs this up. Studies have shown that higher dietary potassium intake in older adults is linked to fewer cramps and better muscle performance. The antioxidants in apricots also play a role in reducing inflammation, which can silently build up in the muscles as we age. Have you ever tried using dried fruits like apricots to support your muscle health? Or have you avoided them because of sugar content? Share your experience. I'd love to hear what's worked for you and offer some suggestions if you're not sure where to start. Number 7. Pumpkin seeds. A tiny seed with big benefits for cramp relief and nerve health. Pumpkin seeds might be small, but they're packed with powerful nutrients that support muscle and nerve health, especially for people over 60 dealing with leg cramps. Just 1 ounce of pumpkin seeds contains about 168 mg of magnesium, which is nearly half the recommended daily intake for older adults. Magnesium helps your muscles relax after they contract, and without enough of it, nighttime leg cramps become much more likely. These seeds are also rich in zinc, which supports healthy nerve signaling, and omega-6 fatty acids, which reduce inflammation inside the muscles. For seniors, these nutrients are especially important. As we age, our bodies absorb magnesium less efficiently, and nerve signals don't always travel as smoothly. This can result in tight, cramping muscles and restless legs at night. The anti-inflammatory properties of pumpkin seeds also help reduce sensitivity in overworked muscle tissue, making them a smart addition to any evening routine. I worked with a 72-year-old patient named Raymond who experienced exactly this. He was active but struggled with cramps and heavy legs, especially after climbing stairs. When we looked at his diet, magnesium was almost completely missing. I suggested adding 1 or 2 tablespoons of raw, unsalted pumpkin seeds to his evening snack. Within a week, he noticed more energy. Within a month, the cramps were gone and his legs felt lighter. If you're adding pumpkin seeds to your routine, choose raw or dry-roasted varieties without salt. Salted versions can throw off your fluid balance and reduce the cramp-fighting benefits. Eating them in the evening is best since magnesium can help your muscles relax and may even improve your sleep quality. Have you ever tried pumpkin seeds as a remedy for cramps? Do you include them in your diet already, or have you overlooked them until now? Share your experience. I'd love to know how you're using these tiny seeds to stay active and pain-free. Number 6, sweet potatoes. The all-in-one carbohydrate your muscles love. Sweet potatoes aren't just comfort food. They're one of the best muscle-supporting carbs you can eat, especially if you're over 60 and struggling with leg cramps. These bright orange tubers are rich in potassium, magnesium, calcium, and vitamin C. A unique nutrient combination that supports muscle contraction, relaxation, and recovery. Potassium helps regulate nerve and muscle signaling. Magnesium allows muscles to release after tightening. Calcium supports coordination, and vitamin C reduces inflammation while aiding in tissue repair. What makes sweet potatoes even more valuable is their slow-digesting complex carbohydrates. Many seniors avoid carbs thinking they'll spike blood sugar or add weight, but cutting too many out can leave your muscles underfueled and prone to cramping. Sweet potatoes offer clean, steady energy and over 540 mg of potassium in just one medium tuber, more than a banana. I treated Miriam, a 66-year-old teacher who spent long hours on her feet and dealt with nightly leg cramps. She ate salads and lean proteins but had completely cut out carbs. I suggested she add half a boiled sweet potato to her lunch. In just 1 week, her cramps began to ease. By week 3, she was making it through her workday without pain or fatigue. Scientific research supports this approach. A 2021 study in nutrients linked diets high in potassium and magnesium to reduced leg cramps in older adults. Another study in the Journal of Clinical Medicine found that vitamin C and complex carbs improved post-exercise muscle recovery in seniors. To get the most from sweet potatoes, boil or steam them with the skin on to preserve potassium, and avoid baking at high temperatures, which can reduce mineral content. Skip the butter and salt. Try olive oil with herbs for flavor that won't counteract the benefits. Have you been cutting carbs to manage your weight? If so, try adding sweet potatoes back into your meals and pay attention to how your legs feel. You might be surprised by the difference. Number 5, pickled juice, a fast-acting fix that shocks the cramp away. Pickled juice might sound like a strange solution, but it's one of the fastest ways to stop a muscle cramp in its tracks. This isn't just an old wives' tale. There's real science behind it. A study from Brigham Young University found that drinking just 1 to 2 ounces of pickled juice relieved muscle cramps in about 85 seconds, making it significantly faster than water or stretching. The secret isn't the salt, it's the vinegar. The acetic acid in vinegar activates a reflex in your mouth and throat that signals the spinal cord to stop the nerve misfiring that causes cramping. This reflex happens so fast, it interrupts the cramp before it fully develops. Besides its quick reflex benefits, pickled juice also contains small amounts of magnesium and potassium, both of which are important for muscle function and electrolyte balance. While it's not a complete solution for chronic cramps, it's a highly effective tool when used at the right moment. I remember Dean, a 70-year-old community gardener who used to get painful leg cramps after a day of planting. I recommended he drink a shot of pickled juice, only 2 ounces after each session. Within 4 days, the cramps were gone. He kept a jar of pickled juice in his garage fridge after that, just in case. If you're considering pickled juice, make sure it comes from vinegar-fermented pickles and not sweet varieties, which are full of sugar and additives. And if you have high blood pressure or kidney issues, be cautious due to the sodium content. Check with your doctor first. But for most seniors, a small shot after activity or before bed can offer fast, safe relief. Have you ever tried pickled juice for cramps? If so, did it work for you? Let me know. I'd love to hear how this unusual remedy has helped in your daily routine. Number 4, coconut water, nature's electrolyte drink. Coconut water is one of the most natural and effective ways to support muscle hydration and prevent cramps, especially for adults over 60. It contains a perfect blend of electrolytes, potassium, magnesium, sodium, and calcium that your muscles need to contract and relax properly. Just 1 cup of coconut water provides about 600 mg of potassium, more than a banana, and it comes without the added sugars, artificial colors, or caffeine found in typical sports drinks. What makes coconut water especially powerful is that it doesn't just hydrate, it also helps protect muscle tissue. It's rich in cytokinins, plant hormones that fight oxidative stress and reduce age-related muscle damage. This dual action of hydration and cellular protection makes coconut water an excellent daily habit for seniors who may not drink enough fluids or are prone to mild dehydration. I had a patient named Sarah, a 68-year-old dance instructor who complained of sharp calf cramps after rehearsals. Her go-to drink had been diet soda, which offered no hydration benefit. I recommended she switch to 8 ounces of plain coconut water each afternoon. Within 5 days, her cramps were gone, and she even started sleeping better at night. Studies support this use of coconut water. Research published in the Journal of Physiological Anthropology found that coconut water was just as effective as leading sports drinks in post-exercise rehydration and muscle recovery, and participants experienced less soreness overall. For seniors, this kind of natural support can make a noticeable difference in how their legs feel day to day. When choosing coconut water, look for labels that read 100% coconut water with no added sugars or preservatives. Flash pasteurized or cold-pressed versions tend to retain more nutrients. You can enjoy it chilled as a midday drink or mix it into a smoothie to boost hydration and muscle support. Have you ever used coconut water to help with muscle cramps or energy? If not, it might be one of the simplest, most refreshing habits you can add to your routine. Give it a try and see how your muscles respond. Number 3, chia seeds, the small but mighty muscle stabilizer. Chia seeds may be tiny, but they're one of the most powerful foods you can add to your diet for muscle support. These little seeds are rich in magnesium, calcium, and potassium, 3 key minerals that help muscles contract, relax, and communicate properly with your nervous system. When soaked, chia seeds absorb up to 10 times their weight in water, forming a gel that keeps your body hydrated longer, which is especially important for older adults who often don't drink enough fluids. Beyond their mineral content, chia seeds are an excellent plant-based source of omega-3 fatty acids. These healthy fats help reduce inflammation in overworked or aging muscle tissue, easing soreness and stiffness over time. Adding just 1 tablespoon of chia seeds to your evening smoothie, yogurt, or even a glass of water can help restore your electrolyte balance and reduce the frequency of nighttime leg cramps. Scientific research supports their effectiveness. A 2019 study published in the Journal of Dietary Supplements found that athletes who incorporated chia seeds into their diet during endurance training experienced fewer muscle-related issues and recovered more quickly. While you don't have to be a marathon runner to benefit, the findings show how chia can help stabilize muscles and prevent cramping under physical stress. If you're new to chia seeds, start with a teaspoon and gradually increase to a tablespoon as your body adjusts. Mix them with almond milk or water and let them soak for 10 to 15 minutes until they form a gel. Some people love the texture, others prefer to blend them into smoothies, but most notice improvements within a few days. Have you tried chia seeds before? If so, how do you like to eat them? And if not, would you consider giving them a shot for better hydration and muscle support? This small change could make a big difference in your energy, recovery, and comfort throughout the day. Number 2, almonds, the anti-cramp nut that also supports nerves. Almonds aren't just good for your heart, they're one of the best snacks you can eat to support muscle and nerve health as you age. Packed with magnesium and vitamin E, almonds help relax muscles and improve circulation, 2 key factors in preventing leg cramps and nerve discomfort. Magnesium allows tight muscles to release after contraction, while vitamin E supports healthy blood flow and reduces inflammation in muscle fibers. For older adults who may not get enough magnesium from greens or grains, almonds offer an easy way to fill that gap. Beyond their mineral benefits, almonds are also rich in protein and healthy fats, both of which help maintain muscle mass and energy levels. A 2020 study in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that older adults who regularly ate almonds showed better muscle function and lower risk of frailty compared to those who didn't. That makes almonds a powerful addition to any senior's daily routine. I once worked with Alan, a 75-year-old who experienced leg tingling and stiffness every afternoon. His diet was low in both magnesium and vitamin E. So I suggested he start eating 10 to 15 raw almonds each day, paired with a few dried apricots. Within 2 weeks, the tingling had faded, and he reported feeling stronger and more energized. If you're thinking of adding almonds to your diet, choose raw or dry-roasted options without added salt or sugar. Salted almonds can raise sodium levels, and sugar-coated versions can spike blood sugar. Almonds are great on their own or mixed into oatmeal, salads, or yogurt. Are you already eating almonds regularly? If not, this might be the easiest and tastiest way to reduce cramps and support your nervous system naturally. Give it a try and see how your body responds. You might be surprised at how quickly you feel the difference. Number 1. Magnesium citrate powder, the fastest relief. Magnesium citrate powder tops the list for a reason. It's one of the fastest and most effective ways to stop leg cramps, especially for older adults. This highly absorbable form of magnesium works quickly to calm overactive nerves and help muscles relax, making it ideal for nighttime relief. Compared to other forms of magnesium like oxide or carbonate, magnesium citrate is much easier for the body to absorb and put to work. Clinical trials support its effectiveness. In one 4-week crossover study, 78% of participants taking 300 mg of magnesium citrate daily reported relief from cramps, compared to only 54% of those taking a placebo. Although broader studies have produced mixed results, many experts agree that moderate, consistent dosing, around 500 to 1,000 mg daily for at least a month, can lead to noticeable improvement, particularly for seniors with low magnesium levels. I worked with Walter, a 74-year-old retired engineer who struggled with intense calf cramps that woke him up nearly every night. We started him on a low dose of 150 mg of magnesium citrate mixed with water before bed. Within 5 days, his cramps were gone. 2 weeks later, he was back to walking farther than he had in months, feeling stronger and more rested. To use it effectively, dissolve 150 to 200 mg of magnesium citrate powder in water and drink it about 30 minutes before bedtime. Choose a clean formula, one that's free of artificial sweeteners, colors, or preservatives. If you have kidney disease or are on medication, consult your doctor before starting any magnesium supplement. Have you ever tried magnesium citrate for muscle cramps or sleep? If not, this simple nightly habit might be the missing piece in your routine. Share your experience or questions. Many others are on the same journey and can benefit from your insights. So there you have it. 10 powerful everyday foods that can naturally prevent leg cramps, boost muscle function, and support overall mobility, especially for those of us over 60. From the magnesium-rich Greek yogurt and chia seeds, to circulation-boosting spinach, potassium-packed sweet potatoes, and fast-acting magnesium citrate. These aren't exotic or expensive remedies. They're real research-backed foods that can make a real difference in your day-to-day comfort and quality of life. The biggest lesson: muscle cramps aren't just part of getting older. They're often a signal that your body is low on key nutrients, especially magnesium, potassium, and hydration. By eating smarter and consistently, you can regain strength, reduce pain, and sleep better through the night. And remember, small changes add up. You don't need to overhaul your diet overnight. Just start with 1 or 2 foods and build from there. Have you tried any of these tips or foods already? What's worked best for your cramps? Leave a comment. We read everyone and respond with personalized advice when we can. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to our channel for more senior health tips every single week. Thanks so much for watching. Stay strong, stay active, and I'll see you in the next video.